Hong Kong is experiencing a great deal of unrest. Unrest that is the result of years of building tensions. A conflict has arisen over mainland China's attempt to pass an extradition law, saying that any person charged with a crime in Hong Kong would have to stand trial in a Chinese court. You're probably wondering, aren't Hong Kong and China the same place? Hong Kong is known as a semi-autonomous region of China. In 1997, Britain dissolved their colony of Hong Kong, and in its place, the British negotiated a system known as the One Country, Two Systems Agreement. Technically speaking, China controlled Hong Kong, but the articles of the agreement allowed Hong Kong to hold democratic elections and allow citizens of Hong Kong to hold other rights, separate to mainland China. Hong Kong is to operate semi-autonomously until 2047. But China isn't interested in waiting around until then. What has developed over the past 2 decades is a series of events that has led to a deep mistrust in the Chinese government from Hong Kongers and a gradual increase in power on behalf of the Chinese government. The first notable conflict came in 2003, when Hong Kongers took to the streets to protest Basic Law Article 23, as many people feared for a loss of freedom of speech and were concerned over, quote, a new security bill which carries maximum life prison sentences for treason, sedition, theft of state secrets, and subversion. Over 500,000 Hong Kongers turned out in early July of 2003. More conflict ensued over the course of the decade, but the events in June of 2014 were equally as notable. What became known as the Umbrella Movement was the result of protests against Chinese interference into Hong Kong's democratic process. Protesters used umbrellas to protect themselves from tear gas used against them. But that brings us to 2019 and this extradition law. Again, Hong Kongers took to the streets to protest the Chinese law that would make it legal for all criminal suspects to be charged in mainland China. But this is more than just a couple of laws that Hong Kong is concerned about. China is actively trying to gain power in Hong Kong. In the late 90s, Hong Kong made up almost 20% of China's GDP. But over the past few decades, China has become an economic powerhouse, and Hong Kong has fallen to making up just 3% of China's GDP. It means there is less of an incentive for China to respect Hong Kong's autonomy. And as The Economist reports, quote, the cost of defiance have risen. China has actively begun involving themselves in Hong Kong politics, resulting in more and more Hong Kong dissent. But data also points to a more interesting fact. Unity. More and more citizens of Hong Kong are identifying themselves as Hong Kongers rather than Chinese. Take a look at the data from the Public Opinion Program at the University of Hong Kong. It's staggering how much more people have identified as Hong Kongers over Chinese. Everything points to the idea that Hong Kong is different from China, fundamentally different. China continues to try and exert its power over a group of people who steadily decline to use the label of Chinese to describe themselves. And the more that Hong Kongers stand up to the Chinese, the more it looks like these two vastly different systems will not be able to integrate as one in 28 years.
各位警方嘅警告，你哋現正參與一個非法集結，請你哋立即散開。我哋呢一度只係企咗喺呢一度，大家可能企喺一邊啫，只係。